Hey everyone, I hope you are doing well today. I'm coming to you from quarantine here in Georgia. And quite honestly, I have been a little zapped of energy. So it's taken me a couple days to shower and dress and put makeup on so that I can record this video because Lord knows you don't want to see me in what I call my prison state. You can already see that I desperately need to get the hair highlighted. But anyway, this week's chapter is chapter 7 and it's shadows. And we are studying Roberto Valenzuela's Picture Perfect Practice. If you are just joining us, there are video tutorials on IGTV and on YouTube, so you can easily catch back up. And what we do every week, we read a new chapter of the book, and we've covered a lot of pretty cool topics right now. And the idea of the book club is to develop our eye. So many photography courses teach you how to use your camera, kind of the technical stuff, which is really important. But this can be used with any camera, your iPhone, your DSLR, whatever you have. The camera that you have is the best one. And how to look for different elements in your environment that are going to add to the photo. So this week we're going to talk about shadows. And shadows are really cool because you can use them to create moody portraits. You can remove shadows to create younger looking faces, which is what I'm doing right now. You can use them creatively. You can paint with shadows. You can place your subject within the shadow. There's really cool things you can do. So what we're going to do is we are going to jump right into my sample photos that I've pulled, and we'll talk about the different elements of the chapter as we go through it. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the sample pictures that I've pulled up. Now I'm just going to go through the chapter here and we're going to talk through it. So the first thing he talks about is using dark rooms outside to create striking portraits with shadows. So basically what he's talking about is if you have a dark room, this doesn't work in a white room because white reflects light all over the place. But if you have a dark room, for instance, some of the pictures I used was the inside of a barn, like a dark brown, inside of a dark hallway. I shot one photo kind of in a breezeway between the ocean and the parking lot. So the middle part was very dark. Basically, the way light works, and you've probably noticed this, is the closer you get to the window, the faster it drops off into shadow. And then the further away you go, it's more even light. So you can really use this principle to create dramatic shadows in your portraits. So let's take a couple. So the one that he shows us is he uses a dark garage. And he puts his subject right at the edge, the front of the garage, and then everything behind him is dark. And that kind of gives the look that you're looking for. So let's go ahead and look at this picture of my kitty. So Sam, I wish I had a pullback, and I don't, but the door is right here, and there's windows in the door. So you can see that light is coming in, and it's hitting just his little face right there, okay? So it's kind of lighting up his chest a little bit, but everything is really falling into darkness because there's not a lot of light, and he's pretty close to the window. So he's just getting that little bit of light, and then the rest of him is falling into shadow, which makes for a dramatic portrait of my kitty cat. This is similar. So this is Cameron in her car, and I ran out to get some pictures, just trying to document her daily life. And you can see that the light from the window is hitting her face here, but it falls off quite dramatically on the other side. So she's kind of got a split light, and the inside of her car is dark and not getting any natural light. She doesn't have a sunroof or anything like that. So you can see the sun is coming in, it's hitting the side of her face, it's illuminating this eye, and then the rest of it drops into shadow. And so that's a way to give it some interesting depth and dimension. And then when you shoot with a lower aperture, so this was shot at 2.8, you can see it's blurring out the window, whatever was in the window, it's blurring it out, so it really draws attention to her face. Here's another portrait of the kitty. So the first thing he talks about is shooting from the shadow side. Okay, so this is where you've got kind of into the light, you've got some dark shadows around the face. You can see that here. And then we've got shooting straight from the bright side. So here's the same kitty, but we're shooting into the window, straight ahead. So we're getting a nice flat light. He's evenly lit. So that's what we call shooting from the bright side in the book. Here's another example of shooting from the bright side. So even though he uses a lot of people and wedding pictures in his book, don't let that deter you. This works for anything. So these are just some flowers that I took on a trip to Maui, and they were facing the light, and then behind the flowers was a dark hallway to the hotel. And so the way that the light falls so quickly off, you get like a nice bright purple flower here, and then everything else falls into shadow, which makes it a much more dramatic and different photo than it would be if you could see all of the distractions in the background, such as the hallway, the elevators, things like that. Now here we've got a little bit, it's kind of front lit, but you can see it's lit from the side. We've got a line here. We've got shadow on this side of her nose. We've got shadow on this side of her chin. Her arm is split, so the back side is in the shadow, the front side is in the light. So that's really shooting in the middle between the bright and the shadows. That's not a super dramatic example, but that is an example where we're getting some side light. Now here's more of a front light. So she's more evenly lit. It's still a little bit of a split light, but she's more evenly lit. I would say this is more of an example of number one, shooting from the shadow side. So we are getting some shadows over here. The background is falling into shadow, but we're getting some nice even lighting on her face. Now this particular portrait, I took this, so I wish I had a pullback, but if you could envision, I'm in a hallway, and on this side of the hallway where she's looking, we're looking into the ocean. So the ocean is that way, and then this way is a long hall, and on the other side of that is the parking lot. So she's standing very close to the opening of the hallway. So very, like, probably right here is actually where you go outside and then you're in the great outdoors. So that's why her face is so well lit. And then she really quickly falls off into shadow. The side of her face, the back of her head, the back of her dress is all in shadow. And this is one of the exercises that Roberto wants you to do. He wants you to look at a light shadow combination in a dark room facing outside. So my dark room is the long hallway between the ocean and the parking lot, and she's facing outside towards the ocean. And then you can see where the long hallway is, everything's turning into dark. And so he's going to have you do this where you're going to be facing outward, you're going to be facing forward, and you just want to study the light and the shadows and what it does for your photo. It can make it really dramatic, really cool. And again, you would never know that I'm standing like in a little brick hallway between the beach. This could be anywhere. This could be in a studio, but it makes really, really beautiful lighting. And if I turned her towards me, we would have split lighting. So she would be dark on this side, she would be lit on this side. If I took myself and I went in front of her, so I was standing out in the light, shooting into the hallway, she would be completely front lit, and it would actually be very, very beautiful, flattering lighting. It would be more like the lighting that you see here because I have a window in front of me, and so the camera's going straight on, and you're seeing kind of you're shooting on the bright side. And that fills in the shadows, and it takes away wrinkles, it takes away imperfections because they're still there, just the light is filling them in. Now, when you're looking for shadows, you want to navigate, it has a little thing on how you navigate the shadows by the ground. So what you can do is you can look at your feet and just look at which way your shadow is casting. And then that's the next assignment. He wants you to take 5 photos. And I'm going to spin around here. I'm going to do something weird. I want you to see how different my face looks. Excuse me while I move this. I want you to see how different my face looks. So this is front, side. This is the light behind me. This is the light to the other side. And then I'm back to the front. And now when I move even closer to, whoops, I just knocked something over. When I move even closer, the light should get more flattering. So you should have seen the different light on my face. You can see how it lit it up. You can see whether it was flattering or not. You could see if it was more dramatic or less dramatic. So do that. take 5 pictures as you spin around in the light and notice where the shadows are. That's one of the reasons that midday sun's so bad, because the shadows come down and they hit your eye bone here, and then they cast a shadow over your eyes. So knowing how to turn based on the shadow on the ground can really help get more flattering photos. Just knowing where the shadows are going to fall. So let's talk about some other things we can do with shadows. So what he talks about is casting shadows from objects to create graphical interest on a portrait. So this is a lot of fun. This is where the creativity comes in. He shows an example where he uses window blinds on the silhouette of a body. But you can do this anywhere. Look at where the sun, I think we were in a West Elm shopping, and I said, stop, because there was a cool shadow coming in, and I kind of moved her around so that I wanted her blue eye to really fall right within this shadow. Okay, and I wanted everything else to kind of go out of darkness. So this is just something fun that we did while we were shopping. Here we were walking through, we were taking senior pictures, and we were walking from the outside to the other side of the building, and there was a big garage door right here. And when we walked in, there was a fan blowing, and I noticed her hair was whipping, the light was coming in, creating all these cool shadows, and I was like, stop. And we just took a quick picture, and this was very spontaneous, but I've always liked it. It feels joyful, it feels fun, there's movement, and I think the shadow adds a little interest to the picture. Here, this is my daughter's room in late afternoon. It always casts really pretty shadows through the blinds. I like the way it looks on the wall. I like the colors in her room, the grays and the light blues. It just felt kind of artistic to me. So that's fun. So go around your house and look at the way, like, I love the way the shadows come through my bathroom window in the morning, and it hits the wall and it casts like a kind of a shadow of the window on there and the trees coming through. You'll notice your house, the shadows will change all throughout the day. So, and even seasons it will change as the sun moves around. So try observing some cool shadows in your home. Maybe you could place a subject or your pet, or you could just do kind of still life like this. It doesn't always require a person. So don't feel bad if you don't have a person to take pictures of. Here, I thought this was kind of nice. I put this on Instagram today. This was at the High Museum of Art, and there was this pretty white wall. It was a late afternoon. The sun was coming through all the trees and hitting that wall, and I just kind of moved her around until her eye fell where I wanted it to fall. So I knew I wanted one eye in the shadow, one eye in the light. I could have kept playing a little bit more to get it just perfect, but patience is thin with daughters, so you gotta do what you gotta do. But I like it. I like the way the colors work together. I like the paint, kind of the painting on the wall that the shadows are making. It feels very dynamic. Now here's more of a dramatic one, and I was talking to Anita, who also helps run the Big Girl School, and she noticed, as I did too, that we tend to like some of these shadow pictures better in black and white, probably because they're such high contrast. They can be dramatic. Here we were actually walking out to another spot to take some senior pictures, and it was early morning and the sun was coming through the palm trees, and all of a sudden it just started hitting her dress and her face in different directions, different places. So I had her move around and just kind of look and see what we could get. So let's go ahead and take a look at this versus the black and white versus the color. I like them both, but I kind of like black and white better. Here's another example. So if we look at these two together, oops, oh, there we go. So there's kind of a side lit versus a front lit. So just slightly moving her eyes towards the sun, it creates a little Rembrandt shadow there. So it's really, there's no like correct science on this. It's just playing around, being creative, and a lot of times you'll just find something that you like. There's really no rule. It's just, do you like it? Does it speak to you? Is it creative? Did you have fun doing it? So just get out there and try it. And a lot of times when I'm out taking walks, I will just notice shadows now. So like this is kind of like let's see what time I took this. Let's see if it tells me. So I took this at 2:41 p.m. So this is pretty high sun. So this is more like a high noon sun. So it's coming through the trees straight down onto the concrete. And a lot of times it paints a picture of whatever it's reflecting through onto the ground. And so this is my driveway. These are the trees in my driveway, and the shadows just created like a little picture of a tree in the driveway, and I thought it was kind of neat. Here again, the shadow, harsh sun coming through. This was evening sun, 6:30, coming through late in the palm tree, actually drawing another palm tree onto the wall. And so look for things that project onto a wall. I wish I had, I've seen pictures where you've got kids playing basketball and the light is hitting it and you can see the hoop and the ball and the shadows on the wall. There's lots of cool things out there that you can find. Here's just one. The last example he talked about was, he just put his subject all the way in a shadow, and then he let the light fall behind them. And so you'll notice here, she's just in the shadow. We were in the Atlanta MARTA station, and she was in the shadow playing around, and I noticed the shadows like reflecting onto the back wall. And it was also the light coming through the windows at the station were hitting her perfectly. So the rim light was hitting her shoulders and her hair perfectly and lighting up her arm. And then I noticed the shadows in the background. And while this isn't the most technically perfect picture, I don't even think it's in focus, she liked it. She thought it was cool. I thought it was kind of cool. So the shadows, the way that the shadows lended towards the rim light, why it added interest to the background, I think it all kind of works together to make a fun photo. Now here's something I took with my iPhone the other morning on a walk. So you can see I took this at 8:41 a.m. So the sun was still pretty low. It wasn't all the way high in the sky. And so the way that it was hitting the grass was actually coming in at an angle, and it was projecting the shape of that grass onto the sidewalk. And I took this with my iPhone just straight down. So it actually looks like the grass is growing, but it's actually just the shadow of the grass, which I thought was fun. And it reminded me of a picture that I saw a long time ago. It was on National Geographic. I'm going to show you this. This is not my picture. So I want to give proper credit to the photographer that took it. But this is from George Steinmetz. He's a National Geographic photographer. But look at this picture closely. So see the camels? Those are actually the camels' shadows. The actual camels, I don't know why it's doing that, are right here. These are the camels. So he was flying in a paraglider up overhead, and he hit the sun just the right time of day, and it projected this whole caravan of camels as they were walking across the desert. It actually looks like their shadows are walking across the desert. So I think this was a National Geographic Picture of the Year or something like that, but it's very cool. And we can do this too. We can look for bike riders. We may not have camels to take pictures of, but we could get up on a hill and take a picture of a bike rider and get the actual shadow of the bike riding on the ground. And we could do these same types of things. So there's a lot of creative ways that we could do this. So that would be fun. I would love to see if anybody came up with a picture like this in your environment, whether it's a bike, whether it's, I don't know what it would be. I'd love to see it though. So anyway, that is the end of the shadow lesson. I hope that you've been inspired to get out there and take some pictures. I know that with all this quarantine going on and all this social distancing and isolation, I know I need some creative outlet. I've been taking a lot of walks. I've been carrying my camera with me, but take your iPhone with you and just start looking for shadows on the bike paths, in the woods, in your neighborhood. You may be surprised what you find. And we'd love it if you'd share it with us and hashtag the Big Girl School. We'd love to feature you. We'd love to be creatively inspired by you. And let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much. Bye.